Hi, welcome to Help with Hannah and Calvin. I'm Calvin Reed.
I'm Hannah Jones, and we are here to answer your questions. This podcast is brought to you by Little India. This is a beloved, local, family-owned restaurant with 4 locations throughout the Denver area and a coffee shop. Some of my favorites on the menu include the chicken korma, tamarind margarita, and all the samosas. If you live in Colorado, you should make this place a regular stop, and if you're visiting our great city, be sure you don't miss Little India. Visit littleindiadenver.com to find a location near you.
And thank you, Dude IDK Studios in Denver, where we are recording.
Hi, Calvin. How has your week been?
It's been okay. It was better than I was last week. Last week, I was coming off of the stomach bug. I had driven on the wrong side of the street to get here today. Today, I drove correctly, and I felt great while doing it. So
incredible.
Thriving. How about you? How are you?
Good. No, I'm doing great. It's been a hullabaloo. I was in LA for 2 days and then came home and was immediately doing my friend's bachelorette weekend. Oh, wow. And then when the bachelorette weekend ended, I have my friend staying with me still, and another friend came into town, and it's just sort of like a lot of overlapping.
Damn.
Yeah, and then I was looking at this weekend and I was like, God, I'm going to recover so hard this weekend. And then I remembered that I'm literally doing a comedy festival in South Dakota, and the lodging is paid, but I have a roommate. So I'm like, oh, so I'm literally, and I told him, I was like, not to be a bitch, but I'm going to drive alone because I haven't had 6 hours. I am at the point in my life where 6 hours alone in a car, it actually sounds like I need that to live.
I get that. That is, the lodging.
Especially
with a
if I'm
roommate
gonna arrive and then have a roommate, I have to drive alone.
I've thought about that too, because I like my alone time. Well, I also, especially just in the car, I like singing while I drive, and I just like going off with my own music. I don't want to listen to other people's music and stuff like that. So sometimes I do struggle with sharing a car, and the idea of a long car ride with someone that might not have any similar taste to me does brings anxiety. And I'm like, would I rather just do it on my own? It's sometimes that alone time. It's also nice because a festival is intense. It's a weekend of going at it the whole time, and you're socializing the whole time. So it's if you can't even get the alone time before or after that,
that's literally why I don't usually do festivals.
Yeah. Would it be
insane of me? Do you think everyone would think I was insane if I just got a hotel room?
Depending on your budget.
It would actually be insane considering that I don't have money to spare on that, but I'm just thinking about how nice it would be to be alone for a second.
I think you could. It depends on what your budget is, but it's fucking South Dakota. It's not there's going to be only 5-star hotel options available.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is that I bet I could find a place for $30 night of or something.
I bet you could too. If you could, I would say use that as use the room you already have as backup, and then if you can get something for 39 cents,
honestly,
it's worth it. Or $30.
You know what I should actually just do? I should just find whatever roommate I'm paired up with. I should just sort of find them someone to have sex with.
I think you could also
and
do
then
that.
Wing women that situation really, really hard.
They're in a monogamous relationship, and you're okay, but who in this room would you be the exception for?
Yeah.
And then go for it. I think you could.
Yeah, but no, I'm doing okay. I think I just I've just been a little bit run ragged, and then I was on actually, never mind. I shouldn't say that publicly. Okay, so in LA, my first show, a couple of podcast listeners were at the show at the Lyric Hyperion, and that show was so fun.
Yay!
I was really nervous about it because it's not I sold a fuck ton of tickets, but people's vibes were just so good, and I want everyone to know, if you came to that show, when that many people shows up, it is so easy for everyone's vibes to be weird, but you guys were just so into it start to finish. Everyone loved all the openers. And then I was worried. I was like, the openers are crushing so hard. They'll be tired for me. They weren't tired for me. It was just so good start to finish. And I really appreciate you coming. The second night, which none of you came to, and I'm not mad about that. I was at the Hollywood Improv doing a all crowd work show.
Every single comic, because I saw that poster, every single comic did crowd work.
Okay, here's the thing. A comic who will not be named, who is a friend of mine who went up directly before my set, was I'm going to do a bunch of material because I never do crowd work and I'm not confident. And I was okay, that just kind of feels you're not it's not the spirit of the show, but whatever. And so they did a bunch of material, and it did pretty well.
Okay.
And then I get up, and my thought process was like, okay, given everything I know about myself as a comic, like I do crowd work at every show when I tour, and it usually does pretty well. And I have an improv background. Like I feel pretty confident. Let's like lean into the crowd work thing. Let's do what my wheelhouse is. It's like somewhat formulaic. And the audience was just not having it. The audience was just not loving the vibe that I brought from the start to finish. Like they just really, I think, didn't like me as like a person.
Yeah, you can't win with crowd work if they don't like you.
Because the laughs that I did get, where it was like the structure was that I was making a joke on my feet, and their just heart wasn't in it. They were really just like, they were laughing like just enough because they were like, well, we don't want it to be awkward for her. But it was like, yeah, it was pretty bad. And then I get off stage, and I was thinking like, oof, that set 3 out of 10 for sure. 3 out of 10. And for it being my first time at the Hollywood Improv, which is such a like good, like legendary room.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. And then I get off thinking it was a 3 out of 10, and immediately the host is like, did you have fun? And then Calvin, and then my friend who came to see me was came up to me while I was like watching the next set. She like walked over and she was like, how'd you feel? And I don't think I've ever underestimated how badly I did. I think this is the first time that I've done that. Every other time I've bombed, I've like listened back and I was like, it wasn't that bad. I did not record this set, and thank goodness I don't need to listen back to that.
Yeah.
I've metabolized it. What I should have done is I should have cheated a little bit and done material just like the person before me who did well. I should have just like followed their lead because they know the city well and they made an educated decision about how to do that show well, and I just was overly confident in my crowd work abilities.
I would have done what you did though, because I would have been like, well, if it's a crowd work show, but crowd work with every single comic doing it is really hard. That also just sounds
so true. It's a different layer. And then also I underestimated how different an LA improv audience is. And my friend warned me about this. Like demographically, that's a really different audience than like my core demo who's at my shows when I tour. So I just underestimated how different the vibes would be and the type of stuff they would laugh at.
Yeah.
So it's all good. I deserved to bomb. I made like a few choices that weren't the right choices. Mm-hmm. And also like, it's not like I'm like banned from there.
Yeah, it's not
but
like, yeah.
It was so funny to me. And then my friend who had gone up right before me, like didn't say anything to me about my set. I got so sad that night, but part of that was just like the early flight and the staying in a place that's not mine and just like the novelty every night and not knowing where to go. And like, I don't know. The high point of my LA trip was I went for a run and I was literally so fast and I felt so amazing. And then at the end of my run, at the north side of the block of my Airbnb was one of the fruit stands with like chamoy and tahini.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
And I had mango and watermelon. And I remember I took one bite and I was like, oh my God, I forgot what it's like to live in a place where the produce is good quality.
Yeah.
Because Denver fruit tastes like ass.
Specifically the tropical fruits. Like not even like the mango and watermelon. There's no flavor
I had
in
a
Denver
mango
watermelon.
recently and I was like, I don't like mango as much as I thought I did.
Yeah.
And then in California, it's like, oh God, I forgot.
Yeah,
It's
that totally
so
makes sense.
good.
The environment. That sounds like an up and down trip. That sounds like a
It
trip
was.
that's a roller coaster of a trip.
But I got back and like I'm hanging out with my like best friends that are not comics. And we have like the most amazing time when we go dancing and we go to a strip club. I swear to God, there was this moment the night following the Hollywood Improv show, right? So that's Friday night is the improv show. Come back to Denver and Saturday night. I'm in a strip club with my friends and it's my first time at a strip club.
Which strip club?
Shotgun Willie's.
I know girls who worked at Shotgun Willie's.
We chose that strip club because we were all dressed as famous Mikes because my friend whose wedding it is getting married to a guy named Mike. So she dressed as her husband and then we all dressed as famous Mikes. I dressed as Michael Phelps.
Cute.
And since like we were a pretty like gay, silly looking group. So to go to a regular strip club would have been more noticeable. But Shotgun Willie's is already kind of like
it's a different vibe.
Camp. And so it's like trailer park
Little bit,
couture. And so we went to Shotgun Willie's and I remember I like got my ones and I was holding them in my hands, and I was like staring at this dancer. She was doing such a good job.
Good for her.
And she comes over to me, and she like reaches out, and so I had my money in my hands, and I reach out to her, and I'm like, is she gonna take all my money? Does she just take the stack? And I was like, I will give it to her in this moment because her tits are out and they look amazing. And so and she's like, no, your hands. And so I put my money down, and she like grabs my hands and like runs them down her tits. And I remember thinking in that moment, sure, like I bombed at the Hollywood Improv, but I'm literally touching boobs right now. Like,
you understand the straight man experience.
Touching boobs is sort of like the bisexual version of like touching grass, where it's like it really puts everything into perspective.
Yeah, totally.
And I wouldn't even say that I'm the biggest boobs person generally. Mm-hmm. Because most of the people that I've dated who have had boobs have worn like binders or whatever, and it's like I don't interact with their boobs because they don't like that's not hot for them. They feel dysphoric about their boobs. So I guess I just like never really interacted with boobs like that. And I was like, God, you know what doesn't fucking matter? A crowd work show at the Hollywood Improv. And wait, no. Let me be clear. So grateful to the guy who had me on it. It's the coolest show. Everyone did well. They're doing something cool there. I'm not devaluing that show. I'm just saying, you know what doesn't fucking matter? The fact that I bombed at it.
100%.
You know what does fucking matter?
Those boobs.
Touching tits.
Yep. I love it.
It will put your whole life into perspective. And I just hope that every comedian who bombs, I think what you should really do is get pussy after.
I really think,
go to a strip club after, but just like engage with the parts of life that matter.
I really do think that's probably the straight male comic experience, right? You bomb and then you get some pussy.
And actually, no, you bomb and then like some girl in the audience thinks you crushed and like comes up and hits on you afterwards and you get to touch her tits. That's nice. That's probably the straight male comic experience.
That really is, and that is just so, yeah, and it's after they bomb, so they probably don't care as much.
There was another big lesson that I had though, where it was like, there was one girl who posted on Instagram afterwards about like liking my set, and I was like, oh yeah, like you can bomb for an audience as a whole and like still someone like found your comedy and like loves it now. Or I'm not saying she like loves my comedy, but like still someone like enjoyed it enough to like forge that new connection. And I try to remember that now, but it's not like I bomb often enough to be good at it.
And it's also just like it's when you have high expectations for yourself, you sit on the times you don't feel like you met them or whatever. So it's just kind of hard to not be like in your head about that. But it's so cool someone like reached out and said that you still did a great job and that they liked your set. Mm-hmm. I imagine you probably did.
No, she didn't say I did a great job. She said she liked my set. Oh, okay. Such a different compliment.
Okay, that is true.
If she had said I did a great job, I would have been like, oh, okay, so a crazy bitch liked my set. But no. She knew what happened. Everyone understood that my set did not go well.
Have you ever bombed and then someone went up to you in the audience and they just didn't get you? And you're like, yeah.
Well, yeah, I've always had this thing that I've told my friends. And this is why when my friend came up to me afterwards, they didn't say anything about my set, because we've had these conversations where when I bomb, I don't want anyone to say good set, because to me it feels like you are... you don't think I can do better. Like, you think that was a good set for me. Like, okay. No, you don't get it.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
Literally as bad as it gets. That's my floor.
Yeah.
And so when my friends respect me and they acknowledge that was a bad set for her, that is the worst I've ever seen her do. It's like, well, thank you for at least understanding that that's my range.
Yeah. No, yeah. I've bombed in front of friends before too, and they'll be like, yeah, I mean, I still had fun, but you can tell that they're like, I'm so proud of you that you're just doing it. And I'm like, okay, cool, great. If that's the best compliment you can give, that's okay. But the honesty, especially from friends, is nice, because you're right. They also have high expectations for you, so it works out. So you were a part of some ghosting drama recently.
Oh, yeah.
And I have like some, given you have a different perspective of ghosting, I want to hear about your drama, but then I have some ghosting like questions to give you, because I might want to be ghosting somebody soon.
Absolutely. Okay, so I went on a podcast, Therapy Jeff, has a podcast called Big Dating Energy, and he had me on, and I said that he asked what my dating hot take was, and I remember thinking in the moment, I was like, I'm gonna say this, it's gonna get clipped, the internet's gonna have a field day. And I said it got clipped, the internet had a field day, and I just weathered it because I'm okay with that. I've touched on this issue before on the internet, but I'm pro ghosting in the sense that I'm going to give a more nuanced version than what I said on his podcast. I think that in an ideal world, if everyone had a healthy self-esteem, no one would mind ghosting.
Yes.
And in fact, it would be the preferred, most efficient way to show that you are not interested in someone. Because I will say that I have a pretty healthy self-esteem when it comes to dating. And every time I've been ghosted, I literally don't notice. I literally don't notice because if you're not responding to me, you're not in my brain. I'm not thinking about you. And then when a person reaches out to say I'm not feeling it, it's like, oh, well, I already wasn't thinking about it. It's so weird to me that now you just had to like pop back up in my inbox. I guess that's never happened, but
That's happened to me before where I wasn't really thinking of someone and then they like ended things and I was like, oh, okay. But I've also been ghosted. I mean, I've been rejected almost every way you can picture it.
I think I generally date a type of men who are pretty into ghosting. And so like if you give any indication that you're letting it fade, they're like more than happy to let it fade too. Because that's just like my preferred way to like address that there's no chemistry. But anyway, I know that most people prefer a clear no, but I personally think that when they get that clear no, they almost always find some sort of problem within it. No matter what you say, if you tell the truth or if you lie, I think that people respond with a lot of anger and defensiveness. And I've seen that happen online a fuck ton of like posting screenshots of the way that someone dropped them. And it's like, well, what did you want them to say?
Yeah.
Of course, it's a fake reason, but they have to come up with something. And the real reason wouldn't have flown either if they literally texted you like, I'm just not that attracted to you physically. Everyone would be like, that's an insane thing to text someone, right? But like, it's all, you can find fault with anything. I think that when you're upset about ghosting, what you should actually do is look inward and be like, why am I fixated on a person who was literally giving me nothing? Why am I still thinking about someone who hasn't messaged me in days? Like, I think that is a sign of your own personal insecurities. And a lot of us are fueled by insecurities when we're dating. I just think that like to put all of that on another person and to like villainize the act of ghosting is weirdo behavior. That's the hottest that the take gets.
Yeah. And I do understand like your perspective of it. Like that does make sense. And I do think it's one of those things where it's like in a perfect world, yeah. But just because we're not in a perfect world, it makes it.
Yes. And I have to clarify, and I did clarify this in the podcast episode, that I don't ghost because I'm the odd one out. And I know everyone has agreed on this. And so it's a societal rule, and I will follow that societal rule, you know?
Yeah.
Like everyone agreed on how traffic circles work. So I am going to, it doesn't matter what my opinions are on how a traffic circle should work, you know?
Yeah, my dad fucking hates roundabouts, but he still does them correctly because he
Absolutely.
doesn't cause.
That's how it feels for me. I don't ghost because I know that that people really hate it. I just personally, I would rather be ghosted than to get a clear text ending things.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I understand that perspective. I just think it's like, it is really, it's honestly, it's like clickbait almost. You're like, I'm pro ghosting. And it's like, wait,
It
what?
is
And then you do
such
have
clickbait.
you do have a pretty nuanced take on it. So it's like, once you explain it, I do like get your perspective, but that sentence is definitely like a,
He set me up for that one. And also, I had a long pause after I said I'm pro ghosting, which I thought he would cut out because usually when you make clips, you like cut out all the pauses and you speed it up because people have a short attention span. He did not. He let that pause percolate. So it's like devastatingly slow for me to get to the nuance of it. And I don't really expand on it as much as I did just now. And people were livid with me in the comments.
I didn't read any of the comics. I
And
just
one
watched the
person
video.
was like, silence is literally violence. And I was like, no, it's literally fucking not. What are you fucking talking
This
about?
isn't like a world issue. This isn't like 2020 BLM silence is violent. Like, what the heck? Okay, that person's a little dramatic, but it's the comments. They always are.
Silence is violence. It is an insane thing to say regarding flirting.
The early stages of dating. Silence is like, calm down, babe.
I also, to be clear, I want to be very fucking clear because a lot of women do this whenever ghosting is brought up. Some women in the comments every fucking time. Some woman in the comments is like, I was ghosted after 50 years. I come home. He had moved all of his furniture out in the dead of night. I never saw him. I have no idea where he is. And it's like, bitch, that's not ghosting.
That's abandonment.
That's a sociopath. That is someone who left and abandoned you. Ghosting refers to specifically the early stages of dating before you were in a relationship. When you are non-exclusively dating, you are going on dates. Ghosting only refers to that time period. Everybody knows that. I am not invalidating your trauma of your 50-year marriage ending. That's insane.
Yeah, that's definitely like, to me, it's a separate thing of abandoned. Like, that's like, you were abandoned. You were living with this person. They abandoned you. They didn't.
That's
like,
a
ghost.
deadbeat.
Yeah.
Like, that's someone who left a fucking family, which, did you know? So, my granddad tried to do that to my
Really?
grandma, and my uncle was still living at home at the time. He was 13. He had a 13-year-old child, and he tried to leave without a trace. And my grandma came home from work early that day and found him doing it. And that was the story of him leaving.
I think that actually happened with my best friend from high school's father. I could be wrong, but I think he like left for like 2 months. It was just like, I can't do it anymore. And then just like came back. And I'm like, that just feels, and he had kids at the time. I'm like, that's a little bit. So was the grandma like, fine, then leave?
I remember there was an era where my dad was like never home, and we like never knew where he was. I'll let you assume what was happening, but
It's not great, but yeah.
but yeah, there would just like be super like a ton of nights where he just like never came home, and it was like a very unsettling feeling. But then I would like wake up the next morning, he knew he was there in the office.
Yeah, which isn't great, but better, I guess, than him just abandoning.
But yeah, but I'm just thinking of like being my uncle and my little father just trying to like leave without a trace forever is like, that would fuck me up. I would never heal from that.
Yeah, my entire life. That would be horrible. But I went on like a date with a guy, and okay, actually, never mind. This guy I'm debating if I should ghost. He matched with me on a dating app, or he liked me on a dating app, and I didn't realize he was like 600, 700 miles away when I like liked him back or whatever. And then we were talking, and he was like talking about like going on dates and stuff, and I was like, does he not realize we're like far away? Like, and once I realized we were far away, I barely messaged.
Whoa, but do you think that he was like on a trip?
He was not.
Okay.
Or because this app every once in a while, like once in every like 15 people I see, randomly it'll be like 300 miles away, and I'm like, why? Like, I don't. It's
Because I'll swipe in whatever city I'm touring in next, like the
Same.
day before I leave, just so that,
Oh.
just to expedite the process. Because you want to like exchange a few messages, and then the next day.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, this is also a newer dating app. It's called Archer. It's like a newer gay dating app. So they definitely have some like, they're trying to like make an improvement off Grindr. If Grindr and Tinder had a baby, and it's not a great app, but I get
What's
the idea.
its thing?
Its thing is that it's Grindr, but everybody's forced to have pictures, because on Grindr every account can be blank.
Oh, word.
So it's just kind of like forces that, but then people still do like pictures of like half their face or whatever, and it's like, you're still obviously closeted.
There was a dating app that I don't think exists anymore called Raw, and the idea was that it was a combo of Tinder and Be Real. So all of your photos had to be taken in the Be Real style, where it's like no filter, just like you have to take it within a timer, and it shows like what's on the other side of the camera too.
Yeah.
And it's like, word. I do get the idea that you think that apps are just like filled with fucking catfishes. But I think that what you're failing to understand is that like the way that you take your photos actually gives me a lot of information about like your community and culture.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And whether or not we have any shared language of like, and so to me it's just like so weird seeing a bunch of pictures of like men in their homes, and it's like I have no idea whether any of these men have anything in common with me.
If they have any friends, if they
Yeah.
have like, maybe they might have pets, but yeah, it's like kind of.
It's like I want to see a Polaroid, and then I'm like, oh yes, we have stuff in common.
I kind of want to see a little bit of a doctored
I
profile.
want to see a little Visco moment, and then I'll be like, oh okay, like yeah, we would probably we come from the same
Yeah.
Chaperone concert, you know.
I very much agree with that. Like when I see like really just, I guess Raw is kind of the best, like Raw and just like no one, they don't give a fuck about their profile. I'm like, this is kind of your first impression
That's
of somebody.
the thing too, is that like I will swipe left on anybody who's like taking a selfie in their car. And so on Raw, I feel like everyone would be taking a selfie in their car. And also
Yes.
it's called Raw, which is like an insane name.
It sounds super gay. I was fully expecting you to be like, yeah, like too many people got STD, so they had to shut it down or something. I was fully expecting that.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have derailed your story multiple times.
No, you're fine. So, I mean, yeah, this guy, it's honestly short. So we were talking, but the second I realized we were far away, I got distant because I was like, I'm not like, we
You
can
just
talk.
kind of
but
stopped responding.
yeah, like, or I would take a longer time to respond. Like my cadence changed. And then he was like, yeah, like, do you have a Snapchat? And then he asked me a few other questions and I did the boy thing where you just answer the last question instead of like the top one.
The boomer boss thing.
Yeah, like that thing where I'm like, oh, whoopsie, I didn't read it. But
It's giving president of a company.
it's giving my father. No. It's giving my father and brother. But I did that to him. And then he was like, if you're not comfortable sharing Snap, like that's fine. And I was like, we can Snapchat, we can talk, like we can text. It's just like, I don't want to do something long distance. And then he asked me where I lived and I told him, he's like, well, that's not long distance to me. I thought about moving there one day and I was like, okay, that's
Where
great
does he
for you.
live? Does he just like travel a lot?
No, his job didn't have him travel. He just like, I really think it just happened to happen there. Maybe he did travel that one time, but when he said he liked me, it said he was super far away. So maybe he came and left really quickly. But I was like, okay, that's great that it's not long distance for you, but it is for me. And as we're Snapchatting, it's just like, you're cool and you're nice, but we take very different pictures. I'm not a filter guy. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't like putting on filters, and he goes heavy with them, so I don't even really know what he looks like. And I'm like, okay, so we'll stop. I'm not going to send you pictures anymore because I don't know what you look like, and it's going to make me like you less. So then I just started texting, and I was like, it's just like, at what point is it just like, do you take the hint that it's like, because I'm barely responding, but I also I'm really bad at rejecting guys because I know what it's like to be rejected, but you have to reject people, so I'm bad at it, and I don't want to ghost, but I'm like, is this the time? Do I ghost?
Yeah.
It's hard because it's like,
I think you can 100% ghost.
you think so?
I think you can just not respond forever. Like, you haven't met up. There is absolutely, you've never communicated anything that would give this man like an expectation that he should be counting on your response. You don't have plans coming up.
Yeah.
There's nothing in his life changes based on the fact that you're ghosting unless he is making the choice to ruminate about you constantly, which he shouldn't be doing, and that's his own business.
Yeah, because it's just like, and I made sure to say like, I'm not interested in something long distance because I've done long distance before. I hated it. Like, I did long distance. The guy who broke my heart, we were long distance for like 2 months. Well, it was COVID. It was a whole thing. But like, I hated
I
it.
did that with like a follower who messaged me who was long distance, and we were like flirting because
Uh-huh.
he was really cute. And I thought he lived in a city that I was going to. And then I realized I had gotten it confused with a different city. And I realized that I'm not going there and I'm not going anywhere near there realistically.
Yep.
And when I realized that after all the flirting we had been doing, and like, he seemed really fucking cool. Like, really fucking cool. And we had like shared music. And I was like, this is like me wanting to live in like a fantasy world where I like know that this will never become anything real. So, and I just kind of like stopped responding, but he also like kind of got the hint. So it's like,
It's just like, once you kind of realize that, it's like, unless like a trip is planned, which then is kind of its own thing that puts expectations on the other people. Like, it just sets up expectations that they're like,
lesson in a big way.
I've learned that lesson the hard way too. So
I think
I don't want to go through that again. And maybe he hasn't. Like, that could be super valid. And, you know, like his perspective, I'm hot, I get it. Like, I would get why you'd ruminate over me. I'm
I think
delightful.
it has to be going to other people's cities,
Mm-hmm.
because when I go to someone else's city, I have shows every night. I have friends in town.
Yep.
I also just like love being alone. So if we weren't vibing and I was just like spending the day to myself, it's like truly no biggie. But
Mm-hmm.
when someone comes to a city to see me, it's like I feel so bad and so pressured and so responsible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's also just because it is like a different perspective for you. Like, they're coming to you, so it's like the comedy is a little bit different. Because when you're traveling and on the road, you can be like, yeah, it's go go go, because it is go go go. So it's just a different perspective when it's you versus like somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes sense.
One of my little boyfriends, one of the dudes that I'm dating, he was like texting a lot, and then he stopped texting me a lot.
Okay.
And I was like, on one of our dates, I was like, oh, and I should like let you know that like I'm not gonna say I'm a bad texter because that's what like everyone says when they're just like kind of a flaky piece of shit. But like I just genuinely don't enjoy texting. I'm extremely busy, and I find having to respond to multiple texts throughout the day, even to someone that I really like, I find that overwhelming and not fun. And I also have like text trauma from my last relationship where like if I didn't respond fast enough or like often enough or with enough like gusto, it was like a problem. So I was like, that's just, and he was like, oh yeah, I like felt that. I like noticed that you didn't seem particularly into texting, so I stopped, and that's fine with me. And I was like, oh my
That's
God,
hot.
wait. You read a social cue? You're telling me I'm dating a man who read a social cue, decided whether he was okay with it, and then just like vibed and didn't make it my problem and didn't somehow like insinuate this huge character deficiency within me because he wasn't. I was like, I can't believe this.
Lock him in. Lock him in. Better than me. Better than me. I am a texter, so if I'm dating someone who's not a texter, I'd have to have that conversation with them beforehand, or else I'll get worried.
I have respect for anyone who can be like, this is what I want and you're not giving me that, so we're not a match. But I just hate when someone's like trying to convince you to give them that. It's like, can't you just like let me be me and then be like, oh, it's not good enough for me, and then go? Like,
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird to try to like mold me into your perfect girl.
And especially so early on, it's like if there are already
It's like,
that
if
many
you like
problems.
me so goddamn much, just let me be myself.
So how do you guys just not talk as much, or is he more of a phone call guy? Like, did
We
you talk
don't
that?
really text until there's like a moment where we like want to text, and like sometimes like I'll shoot off a few texts and he's busy, so we don't have a conversation right then and there. Sometimes he will and I'm busy, and then sometimes we'll just like magic, but we don't text a ton between times that we see each other.
Oh yeah, I mean, as the pod has probably figured out, I literally have a group chat that we send like hundreds of messages a day. I'm a big, like, I love texting. I love texting throughout the day. Send me Snapchat videos of every waking moment of your life. Like, I love it. Don't send voice memos though. Send Snapchat videos.
I think honestly I liked texting a lot more before, to zoom out and let you know kind of like what my phone is like. I have like work items coming through 2 different email accounts.
Yeah.
I have work items coming through text periodically.
Yeah.
I have like comedy bookings coming through text and Instagram sometimes. Instagram is like social stuff, but then it's also a bunch of work stuff, because if anyone has any questions for me about like an upcoming show, they'll also send it through Instagram. So it's like this weird combination of work and social on literally every app. It's not compartmentalized at all. So to have like a look at this funny meme right next to a like, here are 3 things you need to like complete. It's like such a mind fuck, because it's like, okay, I did the task of looking at the funny meme. What else do you want from me? You know, it's like, that's the energy I bring to my work life. And that's why I'm so good and fast and efficient at everything that I do. And I'm so organized. But when I bring that energy to like watching a TikTok, I'm like, double tap and move on.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I hate the like trickle throughout the day.
No, that makes total sense. I'm really bad about. I'm good at texting, but the Instagram thing actually makes some sense. I'm really bad at like Instagram messaging like my friends.
Yeah.
But I'm really on top of it if someone wants to book me on a show.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, Instagram's a good example of like the social versus the not. I don't get too many like text messages. In ratio, I get way more like Facebook and Instagram stuff than I do text messages for shows. And so I think I'm able in my head to like separate that a little bit more, because I do, like, my friend will send me a reel and I'm like, I don't, like, fine, like, let's just, and I look at it as like a chore. And I don't even do that with TikTok as bad as I am with Instagram. Like, I'm worse at Instagram, but that's because I talk to people. Like, it's more of a work. I look at Instagram as like work half the time.
And I can, yeah, obviously. And then I can also like, I know that I'm worse at like switching between the tasks of like being fun and a friend and being in work mode. I know that I'm like worse at that than the average person. And it's been a problem in past relationships of mine when he'll like come to a show and I'll be like in work mode and he's like, it's like, you're not, it's like you don't even love me. And it's like, yeah, because I'm this tonight is not about loving you. It's about like being a successful comedian. Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are you talking
And
about?
also being a comic is kind of its own beast when it comes to compartmentalizing. And
Yeah.
because it's like the stories are like a lot of times they're really personal, and then you love what you do. So you put all of yourself into it, and then it's different from a different job, and then it's self-hustle. Like it's so many different things to have to add in. Plus them. Yeah, that's a perspective.
It's literally, yeah, like I'm working so like, especially the shows I produce myself, where I'm like talking to all the venue people and then checking everybody in and greeting them and being fun and bubbly and then doing my comedy and then selling merch afterwards. Is like 6 straight hours of being a Barbie version of myself that I am not. And yeah, so anyway, I'm bad at like switching between the two modes, and I think that's part of why I don't like over the course of my workday, I'd love to just be like in work mode until I can turn it off.
That makes total sense. Oh my gosh. Hell yeah.
Okay. So let's get into questions.
Let's do it.
Before we get into questions, I have some shows coming up in Nashville and Savannah. We just locked in dates for New York and Philly, and we're just confirming a venue for Boston. For all of those places, just get on my text list. Nashville tickets are up. Everybody else, just get on my text list. I promise you only get one text, and it's the best way to know when I'm coming to you.
And then I'll be in Denver throughout Pride Month, just doing whatever is needed of the Denver gays, the Denver comedy gays. And then I'm actually going to New York in August. So I'll be doing a bunch of shows there, and I'm excited.
Wait, when?
I haven't bought tickets yet, but hopefully the last week of August.
I think that's when me and BK are going to be in New England. We should hang.
No, I'd be totally down.
Amazing. Okay, this podcast is sponsored by the Patreon. Patrons have first priority to get their questions answered, and they also receive a bonus episode every month, and it's only $3. It's patreon.com/HannahJonesCool.
If you want to ask a question to get answered in a future episode, you can find the link to that form in the podcast description, or on any of our link trees, or on any of our social media platforms.
Alrighty, question number 1. How do I find energy to spend with new friends? I am a woman in my early 30s who moved to the Denver area 2 years ago to be closer to my family and get away from a conservative state. I work in a restaurant front of house 4 to 5 days a week. I'm relatively introverted, so I usually find myself spending my days off at home. I have a boyfriend that I live with. Making art or gardening on my own. I have one couple that we usually go out to dinner with about once a month, and I usually see my parents once or twice a month, and my sibling also joins us once a week or every other week. There are several people I would like to make better friends with, but on my days off, I don't want to leave the house. My sibling has some great friends that I get along with in downtown Denver, but it's a 30-minute drive for me. I've met a couple people my age that are customers, and we've exchanged numbers, and I've promised to hang out with them, but it hasn't happened. I just don't have the energy for most of it. Is there something I could do to make it easier to spend time with people? Signed, Tired But Friendly, and thank you for subscribing to the Patreon, Tired But Friendly.
Living in the suburbs of Denver does suck if your friends are in downtown, because that's an annoying drive too.
I have been here before
Yeah.
so hard, and I have the most unfortunate stance for you, which is that you cannot work in a restaurant. I have experienced this. I felt like, why is it so hard to be friendly? Why is it so hard to be warm? Why is it so hard to even want to hang out with my friends? Why does all socializing feel like work? And it was because I was a barista working 35 hours a week in a highly social setting in a coffee shop, and I was not built for that. Mm-hmm. And the moment that I got a job on my laptop at home, a weight was lifted off of me so profoundly. Unfortunately, not wanting to leave the house on your days off is not normal, and it's not something that you should just learn to cope with or be okay with. Like, you are sick, I would say, and it's your job that's making you sick. And I know that, like, not everyone can just, like, go out and get, like, a remote work job, especially in this economy.
Yeah.
Getting a job is so hard right now, but I do think that the question is maybe not how do I find energy to spend with new friends. I think the question is, how do I restructure my life so that the energy comes naturally?
Yeah, no, I really agree with that part. And like, yeah, it definitely depends on like because if you're running like a really busy restaurant, or if it's something like Snooze where when it's on, it's like on and you really have to be on top of it, like that can just be so draining. So
So
like to do that
draining.
4 or 5 times a week is hard.
And only a special breed of person should even work in food service, in my opinion, because you are like, it is so draining for the average person.
Yeah, because when I worked in food service, I was a server for 2 summers, give and take the winters and falls in between, and I didn't have shows. I hadn't done comedy yet, and so it was pretty easy. Like I'm thinking back, and I
And
didn't
you're
have
probably
something
like,
beyond.
you're probably one of those people who I could see
do
hacking
both,
it,
yeah.
but like still not ideal with comedy.
No, I mean, I left jobs that were very social for comedy. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I actually want all of my energy for social stuff to go to comedy, so I'm going to take a step back. And it was a great change, honestly.
Everybody in comedy used to think I was a cunt, and it's not like they were super wrong, because I just like wasn't. I just like got off of work and everybody else had had like an office job, and they were like, now we get to go do this fun thing, and I was in work mode still. I was like, I don't particularly want to be out here being friends or being social. I'm here because I love writing jokes.
Yeah.
But when I changed my job, and when I got done with work and I closed my laptop and I was like excited to see some humans for my evening job,
it makes it really
it
fun.
fucking like revolutionized my relationship with comedy. And like, that's what you should feel like when you are ready to hang out with your friends. You should feel like, oh, thank God I get to be around people. It should hardly even matter who they are, honestly.
Yeah.
But like, when I'm so overstimulated and I've been traveling and touring a lot, I don't find myself enjoying being around people, and even people that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the problem is not with those people, and the problem is not with me. It's the problem is with the structure of my schedule.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I mean, and I'm like an introverted extrovert, so like I do get my energy from people, but every once in a while I'm very much like I like to be chilling at home. And when I get stuck in that, I fall into like physics of inertia, where it's like once I'm like at rest, I like to stay at rest. And sometimes I have to force myself to go out and do things, and then that I know like once I'm out, I'm way happy I did it. I know I made the best decision. Not everybody is like that though. So I definitely
So
think
true.
like take some reflection and see if it's like one of those things where it's like you don't like leaving the house, but the second you leave the house, you're like, oh, so worth it. I'm so glad I didn't listen to myself. Cause then it might just be like figure out how to channel your energy in a different way. But if it's more that you're like dreading having to hang out with friends, then definitely take it as like maybe a job that's a little bit more low key so that you can come to enjoy it. Cause sometimes I go out and I'm like looking forward to it from the get-go, but other times I'm like, nah, I would like to just chill at home, but I know it's better to hang out with friends. And then once I'm there, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy I made this decision.
Yeah.
So people are different in that way.
So I really, not to like reach too far into your life, I do think try to get a different job.
Yes.
That's my main theory based on my experiences and the experiences of a lot of friends. Second thing, while you're waiting and making that happen, try to schedule hangs where the idea is a bunch of people come over to your house and you rent a movie on streaming, and you make microwave popcorn and you order a pizza. And so it literally requires no work and prep from you other than just like straightening up your living room vaguely.
That's what we did with my friends for my birthday. Is I was like my friends wanted to go, and I was like, yeah, I think I should go out. And I was like, wait, actually, I go out for comedy like multiple days a week. You know what?
Yes.
Actually, I think it's going to be more fun to be at home. And we rented a movie. We got Mexican food, and I had so much more fun that night than like had I done something else. And so maybe it's just like you need to change like how you're going out. Maybe you like going out, but there are breweries. If you're 30 minutes outside of Denver, there's going to be a brewery by you. Maybe they have a trivia night that you'd go to instead of downtown Denver. And you might be like, oh, I actually really like hanging out here. It's just like a commute thing, because I also hate a commute. Like, I won't want to commute if I know my friends are 45 minutes away. That's going to make me not want to hang out as much. But find a place
Totally.
that's 10 minutes away, and it's going to feel way less like a chore.
You have to make it take less energy, even if it's not, even if you don't feel like you're living up to the social media picture of what it looks like to be sexy and thriving in your early 30s in a big city. If all of your friends are hanging out with you at your house watching TV, that's okay, because what matters in life is that you are spending a lot of time around people that you love. Like, that literally predicts like the length of your life. That is non-negotiable. But right now it sounds like that's taking a back seat to just like making it to work and doing all of your home chores. But I'm telling you, work and home has to take a back seat to that. But like with my friend, I have a friend who has like a few chronic illnesses, and oftentimes they like can't muster the energy for social shit. And I was like, all due respect, I will follow your boundaries to the end of the earth, but at the same time, like you can't isolate. And so if you cancel on us again, that we're just gonna come over and sit in your bed and play Animal Crossing silently, and we don't even have to talk. But you just like need people that you love in your physical proximity, or you'll
Yes.
go crazy.
Oh my gosh, just and literally it does not matter what you're doing. You're right. Social
Yeah.
media makes it seem like you have to be going to the club, and it's like that might be fun every once in a while, but I like going to the club like once a month, if that. And then when you're doing comedy, like it just takes a completely different perspective. And so really, yeah, it's just the time that's spent with your friends and loved ones is just like more fun. Like I had a really low key Christmas the past 2 years with my parents, and they've been like standout Christmases, even though they've been so low key. But it's just like, oh yeah, it's because I spent Christmas with my parents. Like, and that's like what I look forward to is like that's like my favorite holiday. So it's like, of course I want to spend it with them. But when you don't try and make it something bigger and you just kind of recognize it for just what it is, it's just hanging out with friends. They're coming over.
Yeah.
That it just makes it seem like it's less of a chore and more of like a, oh yeah, you're right. Like I do really like this.
It's like your body needs food and you don't have groceries to make like a healthy, balanced fucking quinoa bowl. Who gives a fuck? You have to microwave a cup of noodles right now. And like come over and watch Netflix with me, or come over and play on your Switch next to me is like the cup of noodles version of social connection.
That's a great way to look at it. That has been probably your best.
Thank you
Your best.
so much.
That was beautiful.
Longtime listeners, you'll know I struggle with analogies, but I think I'm really coming to town. So anyway, best of luck. I really hope that things get figured out soon, because this is such a tough spot to be in, and I have been there, and it's really painful.
You got this, tired but friendly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Next question. I'm moving to a major metropolitan city in a month, and I'm trying to figure out what I should keep and what I should leave behind. A lot of the stuff I have has sentimental value to me, but it doesn't exactly fit the new vibe I'm going for. I'm not a hoarder, but I have a lot of memories, good and bad, with my current place. How do you decide what's worth keeping? Signed, Big City Mover. Thank you for also subscribing to the Patreon.
Aww.
We got two. I love it.
I think. I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff.
I have a lot of stuff. I'm a stuff guy.
I don't have a lot of stuff because it feels like it physically weighs on me and brings me no joy. So I have one banker's box full of memories that are
Yes, you've talked
mostly
about it
in
before, yeah.
paper form and like little trinkets, and I just don't keep anything besides that. Anything else can get thrown away at any moment and like wouldn't bother me. That box is the only thing that's like sacred or sentimental.
I have like no, I keep a lot of things sentimental. I'm not a hoarder though. Like I know I'm able to throw things out, and I'm also like, if someone were to throw something out, I wouldn't like mind that much. So it's kind of understanding that. First of all, what's this like new vibe you're going for? I'm kind of curious because to
Is
me,
the vibe like being uncluttered?
yeah, like what is that? Because to me, it's like if it's something that gives you value and has sentimental value to you, then it fits your vibe. I don't know. Like I have like posters and stuff, like that's
Yeah.
different. But I have trinkets that I'm like, no, I want to keep this.
Prioritizing like an aesthetic rebrand over the stuff that has brought you joy long term is like probably not the wisest decision. But at the same time, like I just love not having a lot of shit.
And it's hard to have a lot of shit.
And
It makes
every time
moving
I
suck.
clean out my shit, it feels so good. I do it like 3 times a year usually. Like it feels so good.
Yeah. I wish because I kind of wish I had that perspective, because there are just so many things that I do find sentimental value to. Maybe pictures could be your thing, Big City Mover, where you can find a lot of sentimental values in the pictures and memories that come from that, because that's way easier to like hold.
Here's my question for you. In the past, when you have gotten rid of stuff that is sentimental, how did it make you feel? Like a year later, do you find yourself regretting it? Like, do you to this day find yourself like deeply regretting shit you've thrown away? In which case, your vibe, unfortunately, is having a lot of shit. Sorry, you're just one of those people who likes stuff and like holds memories and stuff. Keep your stuff and your aesthetic rebrand, be damned. But if you're someone who like can't think of anything that you specifically regret throwing away, or like maybe it's only one thing, then I think that you could probably get rid of all of this stuff and like not even remember.
Honestly, yeah.
And generally, I think people do like like the less stuff you have, the more you can like remember where everything is, and like it feels good to be in a clean space for most people. So yeah, just look at the past and what has worked for you.
That's like a really smart way to look at it. And also, yeah, really make sure, really reflect on the vibe, because if the vibe is uncluttered, then throw some shit out. But yeah, aesthetics will never beat out great memories with sentimental value. Because I'm trying to think, I have weird shit that I'm like, this doesn't really fit anywhere, but it makes me really happy. This is weird. I have a used M&M's wrapper that has Casey Musgraves from her Golden Hour album, but it's one of the M&Ms instead holding the fan to her face. And I like opened it. I didn't have the M&Ms for like 2 years, and then I was like, eat the M&Ms. So I made a really small crack, ate the M&Ms, and then framed it. And I'm not throwing that out anytime fucking soon.
That's so cute.
But and it doesn't fit any sort of aesthetic I have, but it's framed, and it makes me happy, and my roommate has accepted it, and it's on our mantle.
Yeah. Get a big ass box and put the really important shit in that box. And then when the box is full, be like, do I really need more than a box worth of memories, or can I in fact remember stuff?
Fuck, when you first mentioned the box.
Because remember that your brain is the best memories of all.
Yes, when you mentioned the box, I remember thinking that's a good idea, because I have like letters and stuff that I would love to keep, and I don't know where they are. Like I just don't. But if I had a box, and then you can take the box when you move, and like that box is important.
Yep.
That's a very easy thing to do. I'm a big fan of the box. Honestly, do the box. If it's a big ass box, my parents have a memory chest in their room. It's 5 feet long, but I know for a fact all of my childhood blankies are in there.
Quote, Calvin, I'm a big fan of the box. When you can, do the box.
Yes.
You are in your straight boy era.
I am in my straight boy era.
Hardcore.
Yes, for the listeners that didn't listen, so I finished my Everest book that we talked about last week. Ate it up. It's all I did today was finish it. And my next book is Animal Farm.
Oh, was that before we started recording that we did that whole bit?
I think so.
Okay, wow. Yeah, well, Calvin's straight now.
So just in case any ladies that want to hit me up.
He already friend zoned me, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Well, that wraps up today's episode. My name is Hannah Jones, and you can find me anywhere at Hannah Jones Cool.
And you can find me anywhere at Calvin Reid, REID_.
And one last thing that we wanted to mention, we are actively looking for sponsors for this podcast. Mm-hmm. We don't make any money. We just barely pay our studio fees, and we would really like to continue paying our studio fees. So please let us know. Feel free to email us. My email address is in my bio on Instagram, so it's easily findable. But we have the best sponsors, and we treat them well, and they treat us well, and we just love to add to that family.
And we read good ads. So if you want to have a bad bitch read your ad, just like hit us up.
So true. And on that topic, the Patreon is always $3 to subscribe, and you get a bonus episode every month. We were just talking about how today's bonus episode that went out was like one of our best episodes. And we were like, damn, I am so sad that the public doesn't get to see this, but I'm so happy that only our Patreon.
I say only the true fans get to see the best content.
Truly. Okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Goodbye.
Bye.